It is now 2025. I can't believe that so many people actually believe what a YouTuber doesn't say. I can't believe it is 2025 and there are so many people believing in Indian. Now the truth has come out. I don't have any engineering degree. But you have to accept what I say because the advice is good. If you're not happy about it, I will get my lawyer and sue you. I have 3.6 million subscribers on YouTube because people are that stupid. So allow me to continue to scare. Oh, I think better stop there before someone actually sues me, or rather, Colonel J. Now he'll always be the Colonel to me, even though he calls himself by the sheriff. But well, that is quite off topic. Let me get back to what is the main point of this little rant that my friend the Colonel was so generous to allow me to go on. Now, long story short, we have this CECA, this Indian YouTuber called Mutahar. Well, he's domiciled in Canada, but he goes online, puts on this persona, much like yours truly, and people, unlike yours truly, people actually believed that he was an engineer. Whenever even though, while he was on the record for jumping from I'm just a video editor to I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer in cybersecurity. I'm an engineer in software. It jumps all over the place. I write banking apps. Well, it jumps all over the place. People finally came to their senses. I'm surprised it took them that long. I'm even more surprised that, oh boy, why are you believing a YouTuber, someone who performs behind the screen, or in this case behind this microphone? But that is beside the point. One thing that irks me a little is, you have plenty of channels, 90% of the videos about on this topic. It's painfully obvious that they are fishing. They are chasing the algorithm. They realize talking about that person gives views, brings in a bit of publicity. So I'm thinking maybe I should do a simple experiment at the Colonel's expense, or have the Colonel post a video about some ordinary gamers, or which is of course the name of that CECA Indian YouTuber who is currently domiciled in Canada. So as I was saying, 90%, just regurgitating views, the scoop from 10% who actually did the hard work of going through whatever that person has been saying, or saying for the past 10 years, and do an excellent compare and contrast. And I would not like to do whatever these people did. I could more likely, I'm way more interested in finding out or discussing a bone of contention, a huge bone of contention in this whole affair. You see, for some reason or another, everyone took notice of his claims to be an engineer, even though he's domiciled in Canada. Well, calling himself an engineer apparently is a very, very naughty thing to do. You aren't supposed to do it according to engineering regulations. And there are claims that there are actually people who were fined, for doing that. Of course, the reasons why, engineers, they need to be accountable. Their line of work this is actually a matter of life and death. So imagine if you are an engineer, right? You are, let's say, a structural engineer building buildings, designing buildings. And supposing if, the building collapses, who is going to be held accountable, right? Of course, and this is why you cannot task any Tom, Dick, or Harry to carry out engineering work. Engineering workers in first world countries is usually something that is very, very protected, which leads to this very strange law in Canada, where, you are not allowed, you're not allowed to use that term flippantly. So I'm quoting from right? If you don't mind me, let me quote verbatim. No, sorry, quote word for word. It's not verbatim, it's word for word about this legislation from Canada, right? It's from the website engineerscanada.ca. Engineers Canada, that's ENGIEERS, Canada, CANADA .ca, CA being the first two letters of Canada, engineerscanada.ca. So the name of the page is Use of Professional Title and Designations. Use of Professional Title and Designations. So in Canada, not just anyone can use the title engineer. But to practice engineering and use the title engineer, you must be licensed by the engineering regulator of the territory where the title is used. And so, advertising an engineering-related job without requiring licensure from the engineering regulator in the province or territory will have legal implications. Requiring eligibility for licensure is the first step, but the newly hired person must be licensed before practicing engineering. Well, this is what the website says, but tell the truth, if you go online, if you try and search for engineering jobs, let's say through Glassdoor, through LinkedIn, all these job search sites, and you type in, let's say, site engineer, or let's say software engineer, you realize that these engineering jobs are, they have the title engineer, but they do not require you to be licensed by any authority. So, in essence, the law is one thing, but in practice, in the industry, the title engineer is usually a job title. It's a job title. So, for example, Mutahar, SomeOrdinaryGamers, what he said was, as an engineer, I endorse this and that product. As an engineer, he didn't really specify which engineer he was. So I'm thinking, it's not really as big as a problem as it could be. I'm a huge racialist, but I would say, in practice, yes, in practice, no. In practice, there are plenty of people who use the word and title engineer as a job description, rather than a professional engineer who is in charge of, actually doing the designs, being the person held accountable if something cocks up. So that's a bit of difference over here. So you have two engineers. This lowercase e engineer. Lowercase e engineer, which is really job description. Yes, you are an engineer's assistant, you are a designer, you are so on and so forth, but you are technically doing practicing engineering, but you do not have, you cannot call yourself a capital E, a block letter E engineer, which will have to be registered. You need to go through, you need to have a university degree. You need to go through very tough examinations and interviews in order to be licensed by the governing body, by the authorities, and recognized as a professional engineer. And this actually requires you to have many years, even more important than a college degree, many years of practical experience, right? So you've heard me ramble for quite some time. I'll just summarize what I said. Two types of engineers: small E engineer, which is really a job title; big E engineer, which actually which requires you to have some kind of certification one way or another from the governing body. And I would like to, and this point has actually been made by plenty of YouTubers. I mean, the thing about it's like job title versus it being versus the professional title that shows that you're registered, you're recognized by the authorities, right? And there's another thing I could like to put into light, which Mutahar, Some Ordinary Gamers did, which is actually questionable, namely him advertising a product in the capacity as an engineer. Now, don't care. Now, this is really raises eyebrows because if you're of the engineering profession, it doesn't matter whether you are registered or not. There are still codes of there's code of practice, code of conduct you have to follow, right? When you're engaging in engineering, there's a code of practice, code of product, code of practice and conduct that you have to follow. And Mutahar, Some Ordinary Gamers, if he is really what he is, and I guess, from what I have seen ahead for the past 1 week or so, stinking CECA, typical of his kind, I don't think he even has any experience in the engineering field, whatever engineering might be. Yes, he reveals it, so he has no projects to show off, so and so forth. With no CV, I suppose he should show his CV, maybe if his address and other personal details blotted out, but of all the projects that he's involved in, he didn't show it. So I think he's not even small letter E engineer in the first place. He has no relevant job experience, and yet he goes around calling himself an engineer. And even if he does have the job experience, let alone having the title being registered with the Canadian authorities, even if he does have title, even if he did that job, he shouldn't be going around saying, as an engineer, Intel product is very good. As an engineer, my boss are bigger than you, and I can masquerade as authority. No, you don't do that. I can appear on advertisements saying I'm an engineer. In most places, right? In most places, this is not allowed, right? Engineers, unlike other engineers, and you'll find this to be the same with other professions. Well, you need to, in order to preserve this, what do you call that? You look up to engineers as the professionals, as the experts. And if you're holding on to that title, common sense will tell you that you can't be that flippant. Yes, you need to make sure that this title continues to be one that is respected, and so on and so forth. So, going on an advertisement, touting your credentials, it is something that is very, very frowned upon. So, I'll quote from the engineering practice called the Professional Conduct and Ethics from the place where I am domiciled. It's not Canada, but it is a British Commonwealth territory. Well, here it goes. A professional engineer, listen carefully, a professional engineer must not endorse any engineering products or processes in any commercial advertisement. Let me repeat one more time. A professional engineer, that is an engineer registered with, here it is, the Professional Engineers Board. It is a government authority. He must not endorse engineering products or processes in any commercial advertisement. There you go. I think it is quite clear that I'm sorry, you're not appearing in any advertisement, many advertisements. And I'll move on to where Mutahar is, where some professional gamers, it's a plural, funnily enough, it's a plural, even though he's the only person under the moniker of some professional gamers. Mutahar, where he is, these are the advertising restrictions. So a member or holder of a temporary license, a provisional license, a limited license, or a certificate of authorization may advertise only in a professional and dignified manner. Very subjective, but okay. Very subjective, but personally, my gut feeling is no. You saying as an engineer, Intel products are very good. It's not my idea of being professional and dignified. In a factual manner without exaggeration, in a manner that does not directly or indirectly criticize a member or holder or an employer of a member or holder. That means you're not criticizing other engineers. Without reference or use of the seal of the member, which means, well, professional engineers, they go around carrying seals, they go around carrying stamps to endorse products. So yes, this shouldn't appear in Canadian advertisements as well. Personally speaking, in the spirit of the profession, which some ordinary gamers that CECA doesn't appear to be in, yes, he shouldn't even be in an advertisement in the first place, if you ask me. So, long story short, really, if you call yourself an engineer, you better not be appearing in any advertisement. If you are appearing in any advertisement, you shouldn't be advertising. You should not be using your expertise to advertise for the engineering products of other people. No, it's certainly not in the capacity of an engineer, right? This title is a very protected title. It's a title that needs its dignity protected, for obvious reasons. So I'm sorry to have wasted how much is it, 17 minutes of your time, but this is the main takeaway I have on the Mutahar situation. Engineers should avoid advertisements like the plague. I don't care what it's Intel, and really, this is the CECA loafer, the CECA loafer. Don't trust CECAs. Don't trust them. So this episode it's not clear enough. Goodbye.